Thank you. It's an interesting situation to talk about setting up an organisation during the middle of a pandemic or through COVID. To say it was challenging is an understatement, but you all know that. You know what COVID did to us all. Pretty much shut the events industry down. Where we were very lucky is we were still able to, in a way, operate, but in our bubble of Queensland. We all have tales of our various premiers and things they did with shutdown or federal government, but we won't go into that because it's a bit sort of depressing. Hello. Oh. Okay, so in November 2018, the Gold Coast City Council resolved to amalgamate three entities they had: Broadbeach Alliance, Surfers Paradise Alliance, and Connecting Southern Gold Coast. Each of those organisations across the city, and you'll notice that this city is a linear city, they covered that area, and their role was to drive overnight visitation through events. So with amalgamating them, which happened in 2019, well, that's when I started, but actually the real amalgamation happened in June 2020, we brought three organisations together that had been competitors, three teams of people that had been competitors. It was a really challenging time, I can tell you. But what happened first up, as you would all know, everyone had to work from home. And we had to still build a brand new organisation. We were a start-up, essentially. So that's the background. So they're the organisations and how they worked. Now, Major Events Gold Coast and these organisations are wholly owned by the City of Gold Coast. So they are our only shareholder. So we're quite unique in as much as a council organisation, Major Events Gold Coast has 4 major music events that we own, we develop, we stage, one of which is happening this weekend, in the rain probably, up in Surfers Paradise, called Springtime. Plus we also fund collaborated events, so events, for example, the Gold Coast Marathon, you would have heard of, Pan Pacific Masters Games, and a whole lot of other events. And we also adopted a lot of events that the city used to negotiate with. So those events were largely sporting events because of the Commonwealth Games. So the first thing the council did was very smart. They put an exceptional board together. And that board consists of Daryl Kelly. If you're from the Gold Coast, you would know about Daryl. He owns the Titans, which has been challenging for him. Michael Coe was with the Accor Group. Jackie Cross Promotions, they do events around the world. Peter Fielding, Burley Brewing. Jeff Hogg, the Star Group. Greg Jenke, Ramsay Health. Clark Kirby, Village Roadshow. Jess Norris is a lawyer. Mark Peters was the CEO of the Commonwealth Games. And Bradley Cross is a finance. He's an accountant. So it's a really strong business board, and it's not a board for friends and mates. They're very, very efficient people. So I'll get to some COVID stuff in a minute. Our strategic vision is being globally recognised, so this is what we had to do from scratch, offering diversity in our calendar. Once again, going back to the Commonwealth Games, we have a heck of a lot. 80% of the events that happen in this city are sporting events. They're great economic impact, but there's no real diversity, so we're working to change that. We want to be a leader in collaboration and partnerships. In the past, it's been difficult to deal with this city. There's been no one port of call to come to. So we're working on that and delivering dynamic results for the city, i.e. economic impact. So as you know, events drive tourism. They build city pride and a sense of purpose and are fun to attend and to participate in. And that's our industry. That's what we do for a living, each and every one of us. It's a really exciting industry, it's a challenging industry, and it's a frustrating industry, but it's one that once it gets in your blood, you very rarely change. I've been doing it for 40 years, so long time, but seen a lot of growth and seen some great things happen. So we wanted to drive a whole of city approach, and that's why we came together. And we also are going to be obviously concentrating in leveraging off the impending Olympic Games. There's going to be I sent someone over to Birmingham to start working with organisations to bring their national titles or international titles to the Gold Coast if they're coming down to Australia. Also training camps here on the Gold Coast, bringing those down as well in the years leading up to the Olympics. So driving economic outcomes is really important, especially when you're dealing with the public purse. We have to deliver some really strong outcomes. It is expected of us to, by 2025, deliver a $450 million return on the investment Council has given us. I can't tell you the investment they have given us, but I can tell you we've had 2 budget cuts since COVID started and we haven't got that money back. But we are quite confident we'll meet that target. And you'll see as we go on, we've got some pretty amazing events coming in. So during COVID, apart from people not working in the office and time-sharing times and things like that, we had to set a strategy on how would we reach that target. What was really important for us, as you would all know, events were cancelling left, right and centre. They couldn't come to Queensland, there was border closures, or if there were international events, they couldn't travel down here because of the border closures. So we had to reschedule all those events and not lose them completely. Of the 87 events we'd adopted, we only lost 3 international events because of COVID, because they're on a cycle. And if they couldn't get into Australia, the next time was going to be in Cologne or somewhere else. So we are back on the list probably in 10 years' time to get them back down. So it was really challenging. And we also made sure with the events in Australia that we were dealing with that we put them on multi-year deals. So the contracts are all a minimum of 3 years, most of them are 5, and they're rolling contracts, which is important for us from a sustainability point of view. Where possible, we encourage an attached business event. Not that we run or fund those, that's done through Destination Gold Coast, but we are requesting that they have some form of award ceremony, conference, whatever, around their major event that comes to town. And then there are events that will really be a game changer to this city. And I'm really proud that we secured this event over COVID. It really is the biggest thing that's come to town. It's going to be here in August 2023 on a 15-year contract.
Falcon 150 Romeo Juliet, have a departure, radar 0 Romeo Juliet, climb in, 230. Climb in, 230, 150 Juliet.
First off, forget everything you've ever known about air shows. Because these planes aren't flying over some sweaty, landlocked tarmac. They're coming to you at the world's most iconic beachfront destination. Welcome to Australia's playground. It's not just the biggest event Gold Coast has ever seen. It's the largest maritime event on Australia's eastern seaboard. No biggie. And your best friends are all there because they want to be. Because it's not just an air show. It's an experience. We're talking the world's best performers and best teams pushing the edge of what's possible. Things that make you turn your head and scratch it at the same time. VIP meet and greets, social parties, epic hospitality, influence from around the world. Everything under the sun, and we're just getting started. It's not your hot dog, hamburger, hot chips, makes your gut hurt the next week greasy cuisine. The best chefs are here stirring the pots for you like never before. It's the kind of air show you can have your Top Gun volleyball moment with beers and your best friends and take it all in. Where you can surf to the shock waves of 40,000 pounds of thrust racing across your chest. And you don't have to like airplanes to know it's bitchin'. But don't take my word for it. Ask the millions of fans yourself. And when it's all said and done, all you can think about doing is doing it again. Pacific Air Show Gold Coast, redefining the air show experience.
So that's what we're bringing to town. I think, I don't know if you recognise that voice, that's Billy Baldwin. He'll be coming out. What is exciting when you think about it, this is going to be held over the water, clearly, in front of Surfers Paradise. So not only do we have the people on the beach, and the event is free, unless you're in a corporate hospitality, which people will pay for, the flotilla on the other side, and on the Gold Coast we have something like, it's a ludicrous amount, it's something like 300 or 400 registered yachts and aircraft, boats and so on, which could be the other side. Now in America it's the biggest maritime movement of personal craft to come down to this show. This show in America attracts 3 million people. This show in America is the biggest thing that has hit Huntington Beach. And we're proud that we've secured it for the Gold Coast because it bookends the Pacific Air Show, Huntington Beach, Pacific Air Show, Gold Coast. So there cannot be another one of these in Australia for 15 years. So from a tourism perspective, in a shoulder period in August when we normally don't have a lot going on, it's a great opportunity for us as a city to really leverage off it, and as a country. When we launched this event and announced it, not the dates, when we announced it about 6 months ago, I think, and it was pouring with rain, and we were standing on the beach, and it was horrible. So it didn't look really great in media, but there was over 900 million people. The reach was over 900 million. That's massive. And the biggest question that's being asked, or was being asked on the Pacific Air Show Huntington Beach website and Facebook pages, etc., to the digital media was, what's the dates for the Gold Coast? We want to go. And the Huntington Beach one is on at the end of September. I'm fortunate enough to be able to go over and see it with the mayor to check it out and see what we need to do as a city to cater for. We're never going to get 3 million people, clearly, but we're going to get 200,000 to 300,000 people on that beach. But you will be able to see this event from Coolangatta to Main Beach. So it's quite extraordinary. It'll be great for our city, and it'll drive overnight visitation, unlike anything we've seen. We also secured some other really significant things. One thing I'm really proud of is I secured Harry Styles away from Brisbane. Didn't really know who he was, but the girls in the office said, I know, age thing. The girls, and when I saw a photograph and he was in a dress, was like, oh dear, board's going to be happy about this one. But he was performing at Coachella, and he wanted to announce he was coming to the Gold Coast. So we had to do it within a 24-hour turnaround, and we stole it from underneath Brisbane, which was really exciting from our point of view, because we're a little organisation with a pretty small budget compared to the capital cities, but we do hit above our weight. We've also secured the World Championships lawn bowls. Believe that or not, it's not that exciting, but there's a lot of young people play lawn bowls these days, and it's a great event for a city because they come from all around the world, and they stay for 10 to 20 days, which is great, once again, for economic impact. The World Surf Lifesaving titles is coming as well. We secured the WSL, World Surfing League Challenger Series here. I went and saw it down at Snapper Rocks. Amazing event. And there's just so many more that we secured. So we didn't sit back and just go, oh, whoa, COVID's here. We really worked hard at it. So we have two sorts of events. We have our own events, as I explained, and then we have the collaborative events. So our own events are Blues on Broad Beach, Groundwater Country Music Festival, Cooley Rocks On, and Springtime, which is on this weekend. All these events, as I said earlier, we manage every single aspect of them, and we're really proud of them. Blues, Cooley and Groundwater have all won national awards at the Australian Tourism. So we are unique in Australia. We're unique in as much as a council organisation, that we do have our own events, and then we have what we call the collaborated portfolio as well that we manage. Often, and there's one member in the audience here that used to work for me. She left because she got exhausted, I suppose, but Tash will understand this fully. The team that we have, which is a very small team of 8 people, manage those 4 major music events. That's a lot of work, and it's back to back. When one finishes, the next one starts. But we're working 18 months, 2 years out now with these events. They're so big. And we're talking crowds of Blues hit 200,000 the year Tash left, I think, in 2019. Obviously, COVID's knocked that back. Groundwater was tracking to go there. Cooley Rocks On, we've just finished. That was 136,000 people. So they're big events. They're not small events. And there's a lot of logistics involved. And the team do those. So in the period last financial year, so since June 2020, we've delivered 4 owned events and supported 94 events into this city and attracted a lot of other events. And it's really exciting to see that we're able to do that through COVID. So just to go through quickly, I think I've talked about that one. We adopted all these events from the staff. It's taken a while to put people in the right holes in the organisation. I think it's fairly stable now. But once again, as I said earlier, no one really understands yet the pressure of what going through COVID in our industry and in the tourism industry has been like to all of us. And it's been incredibly difficult. I'm sure you would all agree. We've had a lot of events from the Gold Coast too. So here's Blues. Now this event is a rite of passage. It's the annual pilgrimage. People come to it. It's quite amazing as they check out of their accommodation, because these events are all held in CBDs. As they check out of their accommodation, they check back in for the following year. So it's amazing. So how are we going to do this, and what are we going to keep this event? This event forms part of the Gold Coast identity. This is the type of thing, we can't compete with Melbourne. I'm not sure if there's anyone here from Melbourne, or Sydney or Brisbane. We're not a capital city. We're the Gold Coast. We're a bit edgy, I suppose, a bit different. Some would say bogan-esque. I wouldn't. I disagree with that one. There is bogan-esques everywhere, but not here. Well, yes, there is really, but you'll come in and see if that's a thing. But it's a really interesting city in as it's so beautiful. It's got so many wonderful areas that you can run an event in, and the lifestyle here is exceptional. And you would say that about your own place, I know. But the Gold Coast is special to me. And events like Blues is the driver of tourism. People travel, and I can't remember the exact statistic, but it's close to 62% of people will make a decision to travel based around an event. So that's based around that you're going to participate in an event, or you want to attend an event, or you're a supporter for the person that's participating in an event. That's a very large figure, and that's Australia-wide. That's why our industry is on the cusp of a boom. So one thing that, because we're a council entity, we have to follow very rigorous COVID or any sorts of rules, policies and procedures. We have 38 major policies and procedures in our organisation. And the hardest one to do was the COVID event one. It was a nightmare. Every week it changed. When the government changed their mind about something, we had to flip and change. And we did one blues festival. We would normally fit about 7,000 or 8,000 people into a park. We got down to 5,800. To be honest with you, it was really scary. We had people at the fences trying to push the fences over. We had screens down on the beach and sound systems so people could hear the headline acts. This is the footprint for Blues. You can see it's in a high density area and it's going down onto the beach, and there's parklands and so on. So during that festival, in a good year, not the one for COVID, but in a good year, we're running about 15 stages at any one time. So it's a full-on festival. So once again, as I said, the capacity at Curra was 5,800 for COVID. And it was difficult to control the crowds, but we were at capacity crowds. Just some quick figures on Blues. This is for 2021. At a glance, the numbers are down. It was down about 20% on the 2019 figures. 2020, it didn't happen. And it's taken us a few years to get back to the numbers that we had before. What's really important with these festivals, and particularly through COVID, we had to make sure that the one we put on through COVID, even though there were border closures, had to be relevant. People had to want to come, and we had to have a really strong engagement with people online if they weren't there, and we made sure that we did that. So this year, with Blues, which happens in May, we had one of those wonderful rain events that Queensland has. I've got a photograph of the operations manager sitting on a hot pink blow-up couch with a walkie-talkie and her feet up, being pushed across the park, ankle deep, or the crew were ankle deep in water. It was just a nightmare. So we lost a lot of the crowd, but, you know, they'll come back. They thought it was a rite of passage. That had happened once before, so that was cool. Cooley rocks on. I better hurry up. Cooley rocks on. This is a sleeping giant, as far as we're concerned. We have changed this festival completely. It was nearly ready to go on hiatus. I guess that's a nice way of putting it, but we increased the overnight visitation from 1.3 to 4 nights. That's really, really strong for us from an organisation's point of view. The crowds were extraordinary. It's all about cars, lifestyle and music, this festival, and the cars that are there are extraordinary. There's some worth hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. In fact, the car that was in the Elvis Presley movie that Elvis drove was there as well. It was the most photographed thing at the event. So we have springtime. As I said, that's the inaugural one was cancelled 2 weeks out because of border closures. The festival's currently bumping in as we speak. If you're hanging around over the weekend, pop up there. They're free festivals, and it's. I don't know any of the artists, which apparently is a very good thing. So I believe it's going to be great. I don't know. Okay, no idea. Okay, so groundwater. This is a really. I think it's a favourite festival. I think even all the staff. This is a favourite festival. Those of you that do country festivals, they are really unique events. People are so relaxed and so chilled, and they just love their music. They're so engaged online. It's so easy to deal with them. And this is just growing exponentially every year. It's going to, I think, hit blues by the time it turns 15. Blues has just turned 21. So it's an extraordinary event. Once again, the numbers are growing. It got a hard knock for COVID. We were able to present it in 21. And of course, we're coming back in 22. 2020, we weren't able to do it. But the numbers aren't as strong as they should be, because everyone was scared to travel. And a lot of people that go to the Country Music Festival are driving in from central New South Wales and so on. So the event collaborations, this is where we financially support events. This is a structure from the Swell Festival. So many of these events of the 97 that we do, we are trying, as I said earlier, to change the thought process of it all being about sporting in this city. We don't want that. We need a cultural aspect of it. So we're working really hard. There's some real crackers in here. We stole the All Schools Rugby Cup from Brisbane. It had been there for 32 years. This is an extraordinary event. It has 6,500 people participate. I think it's 10,000 people come, and a further 12,000 people are support for it. It's extraordinary. They come in for 10 days. And it's where all the rugby teams or managers come in to see the new talent moving forward. So it's all the schools, it's high schools and so on, from Littleys all the way through to the big guys. And it's extraordinary. It's held out at Runaway Bay, and we now have to move it across 2 precincts because it's become so big. But they love being down here because there's a lot of accommodation options in this city, which is where we're very lucky from an events perspective, and price points. So that's a really cool thing too. As I said, 97 events on the calendar coming up. As I said, we focused on building our calendar. We want to drive tourism. There's some really great events. If you were here last weekend, there was Crafted was on. It's a beer and cider festival. That's gone from 2,000 people to close to 7,500 people in 3 years. So once again, that's going to be a great event. And the guy that owns that event is actually the operations manager, has been appointed the operations manager for the air show to deliver the event this year, to deliver the event in Australia, Sam Pearce, who was also with V8 Supercars. And Sam now has been appointed operations manager for the organisation, and he leaves tomorrow to go to Huntington Beach to deliver the Huntington Beach show. So that's exciting. That's the knowledge transfer we'll get from dealing with these international people. It's going to be phenomenal. Once again, all these guys are all on multi-year contracts, and we work really hard to treat them as clients. Some of the unique things that we got over the line purely because of borders, once again, we actually got a state of origin here, which was, pretty amazing. Didn't have the same atmosphere though. Rugby was big. We had some championships here. We hosted 4 rugby championships across 2 nights, September and October, so that was great. When the All Blacks played South Africa, we had a 75 capacity stadium. Once again, it's fantastic. And the viewers, online viewers, were significant with that one. I've mentioned the Old Schools Rugby Cup, won't talk about that. We've also developed a framework to assess these events, and it's now something that the council, because we have to justify every penny we spend, the assessment process. So it doesn't matter whether you want to have 100 people walking on a track through the rainforest or you want to bring in the air show, you have to meet these criteria. And it's like for like. So obviously dollar values and things like that are different, but you have to be able to answer all those questions. So it's quite rigorous, and I would recommend that if any of you are in the situation where I am when you're dealing with multi-events, that you do something like this, because it just takes so much guesswork out of the process. And remembering, because we are a council organisation, we are audited by the Queensland Audit Office, and our figures go online. So we have to be really, really rigorous in the way we distribute money to our events. Thank you. Has anyone got a question? Do we do questions? I don't know. Any questions? No? Oh, yes.
I have a really quick one. My name's Maria. I'm located in Brisbane and travel frequently to the Gold Coast, as my mum has a place down here. Half of those events you put up there, I don't even know exist. And I'm a Brisbane person, and I drive to Broadbeach quite often and stay in the middle of Broadbeach. Like the Cider Festival, I was down here a week and 2 weeks ago, and I didn't even know that was on. So am I missing, and I'm on Facebook, I think I'm pretty savvy with social media and so forth, but I don't see signage around, or I'm missing it. Where would those programs be advertised?
Okay, if you go on our website, Major Events Gold Coast, and have a look on those,
Yeah.
a lot of the events that are owned by other people, like Crafted Cider Festival, Beer and Cider Festival, they do their own marketing. We don't have the funds to do that.
Okay.
We've just gone through a process of doing a strategy for the whole of city, strategy for major events.
Okay.
Not how we're going to deliver them, but for the whole thing. And one of the things that was really came very clear was branding, was recognition of what's on in town.
So Blues on Broadbeach, again, I walk around Broadbeach, so I see that one advertised. But a lot of the other ones, I don't see a lot of signage in the streets or welcome Cider Festival. I don't see any of that happening. So if I'm not on the event website, and I'm a local punter here, and I come here quite often, I don't know half of those things are on.
Look, I agree with you 100%. It's a very expensive exercise to brand through the streets. We don't physically have that budget, but it's part of this strategy. We are recommending to council that there is it's millions of dollars from the airport through to the precincts that hold these
100%.
events.
Yeah. I agree totally.
So
again,
we
if I'm
are
in
asking,
Broadbeach and it's not up there, I find that a bit odd.
We are asking for the funds.
Okay,
I don't know if you've dealt with councils to try and get money. It's pretty challenging.
Thank you.
But I agree with you 100%. Absolutely 100%.
Hi, Jan. My question is, given that you don't sell tickets, how do you actually measure the number of people that have attended your events?
Okay, so there's two ways of measurement. The city has developed what they call the smart city technology. So if you've got a mobile phone and you're walking around, or you're using it through the duration of that festival to buy something, this is all a bit scary, to be honest. They can track you, they know how long you've been there, etc., etc. They know how much you've spent. So there's that technology. We also have what we call grid counting. So we grid count the space. Now, you saw one of the photos of a stage and there's people in the streets. So they measure out how many people will stand in a square metre, say, multiply it out and sort of basically give a good estimate. Interestingly, when you do that manual process and you do that digital process, the variance is only about 3%. So it's a really quite a strong measure. And plus also who's in venues at the same time, who's standing at other stages. It's easy for a music festival because they're standing there listening, watching and seeing. If it's a sporting event, it's a bit different. You have to rely on the fact that people register and they know that they're there. So with us, with the owned events, that's how we do that. And then through Tourism Events Queensland, a tourism value report is generated. And the people that do the counting also do the tourism value report. So we are completely hands-off. And then from that, we get the economic impact of what the event has been worth to the city. And those events are worth many tens of millions of dollars to the city. based on those tourism value reports. This year it's a bit sick because of numbers and COVID and things like that, but we'll come back to the numbers that we had, but that's how we do it. It's expensive. Yep.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to note that I live in Charleville in southwest Queensland, and I knew all about springtime, so it's getting out there for sure.
Yeah, it's that demographic, isn't it? It's all, but so's the country one. They get out there. So you need, where are you? Yeah, just check it out online. Yep. You staying for springtime? From Charleville? Oh, are you? Sorry, I thought that. Yeah. So the music's going to be quite good, is it? Good. Good. Yeah. Yep.
Hi Jan, I'm Gina. I'm a Gold Coast local. Thank you for an amazing presentation and really going out there for our city. You're doing a great job. I just wanted to ask, you mentioned a couple of budget cuts, which is the story for many of us sitting in the room at the moment. Yesterday in the conference here, there was a lot of talk about the increase in prices across the board. Everywhere we look, we seem to be paying more for what we're doing. How do you navigate a time where you're facing budget cuts and you are paying so much more for everything that you're trying to do to entice people to the city?
Okay, so yesterday I went to the hairdresser to get the grey hairs, dealt with. But we have to put our budget in. We generate our budget in November. It goes to our board for the following financial year. It goes to the board. It is at council by the 1st of February. That's it. It's locked in. There's no movement. There's no wiggle room at all. So when you get a 20% increase, which is roughly what we're seeing across the board, it is a choice of, do we have that artist or do we have that artist? Do we drop that stage? Do we not keep people safe? The decision is we keep everyone safe and then we have to reduce the offering, to be honest with you. That's what we have to do. There's been no increases in any of the festivals for years. We just have to do that. And it's a frustrating thing, but I am so proud of my team that they just go through these processes and just work out different ways of doing it, and their negotiation skills have been phenomenal, and they just constantly find other ways to do things. One of the things that I've always said to the team, we might have the same money every year, because we never really get big increases. We might have the same money every year to deliver the event, but make it look different, make the experience be different. Because as I said, these blues people, they're tribes. They come in bulk, friends. They are tribes that come in. Just putting some decoration around, making a stage look different, moving where a stage is and things like that. That we can do and save money. But the primary thing that we concentrate on, because we're anyone should concentrate on, is public safety. So to answer your question, we just keep cutting things. Because we went from a budget in 2019, we got a 19-20 financial year, 50% cut. 2021 financial year, a further 30% cut. Now that was a cut from the budgets that those entities used to run with. So it's really been tough. Let's hope we get it back up and we'll have more Harry Styles.
Hi, Sally, back corner over here.
Over here?
Other side.
Oh, right, okay.
Hello.
So it's hard to see with the light.
Yeah, thanks for a great presentation. I was reading an article this morning that basically stated that we should expect 65% of an audience that we might have had 100% at pre-COVID. Can you, or do you know what kind of drop you've had versus registration? So people who have registered to come to an event that have actually shown up? Or even what you might have got 2019 versus what you're getting now?
Yeah. The only ones we can go on that really has been like for like, i.e. The weather was nice and the lineup was the same, was Cooley Rocks On, which was on in June, the June long weekend for New South Wales. The borders were open. The year before, the border was closed, so there still is a drop, I guess, from the previous year, but the numbers exponentially. But the year before, we could not have New South Wales participants, so people come across the border, but Melbourne, Adelaide and Tasmania could come in. And we saw that in the numbers that they actually did, because we get the postcodes and so on through market research. So we saw that the numbers only varied by about 2,000 people. So it was 134,000 versus 136,000. With regard to the sporting events, what we're seeing with regard to those like the Rugby All Schools Cup and so on, we're seeing the same level, if not an increase. With, for example, the Harry Styles concert, now we've also supported Guns N' Roses for November this year. If you want a really, really cool time on the Gold Coast, come in October, November, every event in the world's coming here. That has struggled to sell. It's only at about probably 80% capacity of the stadium. Harry Styles, different, very, very different performer, sold out pretty much in 24 hours. So if you've got the right product, they're going to come. But our experience with all the sporting ones, including the bowls, including the surf lifesaving and so on, except for maybe Western Australia coming over, the numbers are still very strong. So we'll see what happens with springtime. I know last year the online activity was off the planet, because we were offering all these artists to this demographic that normally weren't coming here for a festival that they loved and they could see for free. It was like, we're coming, we're coming, we're coming. And having to pull it 2 weeks out from the event, those kids had booked tickets, which they probably wouldn't have got a refund, accommodation, which they probably wouldn't have got a refund. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen this year. But we don't have a measure, but we do know that accommodation, because we can also track accommodation bookings. So when we do an announcement of an artist, you know, the next announcement of the festival, we can see if there's a spike, and you can obviously see a spike coming through. So it's hard.